I think everyone who was involved in this movie, from Terry Gilliam, the director, to Johnny Depp and myself, I think we all threw ourselves with total reckless abandonment. What motivated us to do that was the admiration for the book. I would say this movie had a very tough upbringing. We were orphaned early. Alex Cox was the original director, and Terry came in. I don't know how long was the preparation the minute Terry came in, but it felt like it was quite fast. Well, I think Terry creates an atmosphere, and that's what great directors do. I think he created an atmosphere that when you're actually doing it, you might not really feel it.
Son of a bitch.
But when you see it, it's magical. And I think he's done that in all his films. But we had that drive to try to get this thing, on film. So when we got our chance, it was like, we felt lucky to be part of that process to try to bring that book to life. And, Hunter, basically, he was supporting. He was supporting Johnny, he was supporting myself, he was supporting Terry and everyone involved in the film. So there was a sense of responsibility that I think it shows in the commitment of everyone. When I read the book, I fell in love with it. And after meeting Hunter and understanding things, I remember asking Hunter, why are these two guys so mean to the working class, the workers, the waitresses, the maids, valet parking people? And he explained to me that they represented the silent majority. The silent majority was basically a big chunk of the middle class of America that during the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, didn't protest the war, joined the civil rights movement, and put Nixon and the White House. In a way, these characters wanted to shake the silent majority. These two characters represent a movement that happened in the 60s that wanted to change the direction of the American experiment. And I think that by talking to Hunter about that, I realized the depth of the ideas of the book. Because if you read the book in a superficial level, it's just two rascals out of control. But it's much deeper than that. I met Hunter on the phone. Early on, we talked about the book. We talked about, literature, and we talked about Oscar Acosta. Well, Oscar Acosta was a Mexican-American lawyer. He was an activist, a civil rights activist. He was also a writer. He wrote 2 books. One is called The Autobiography of a Brown Buffalo, and the other one is called The Revolt of the Cockroaches. I met his son, Marco Acosta. I met his sister, Anita, and I talked endlessly with Hunter about Oscar, but I think where you get to know Oscar fairly well is in his own writings, and he was a very good writer, and I think the Autobiography of a Brown Buffalo is one of the great books about the Hispanic experience in this country. It's a great, great book. Hunter's work is so specific and so full of details. And through the process of reading the book, I read the book several times while I was doing the movie. I realized that his writing, especially the dialogue, it was written kind of like a play. So if you omitted something, the scene would collapse, And if you omitted a line, then suddenly the scene would not have its own. It wouldn't be sustainable. So if anything, and I think Johnny as well, and I know Layla Nabulsi as well. We and Terry. You know, we tried to get it as close as we could to the book.
Did you eat all this acid?
That's right.
You know, these guys are pretty high on all kinds of drugs. Sometimes multiple drugs, and sometimes drugs that don't even exist. So you have to take some liberties, maybe in terms of rhythm. And so there were moments that, as an actor, you have to like paint outside the lines a little bit. And, you know, Hunter's writing is political. It's deeper than what it appears to the eye and the ears. You know, it's much deeper. And I think the movie has those moments. The wave speech that Johnny does in the middle of the movie, it's the collapse of a dream of a whole generation that really put themselves out there to get the American experiment closer to its full potential. I mean, if you look at the 60s, there was a war going on. A whole generation of people died for that war. And Hunter and Oscar, both men, were part of those people who were trying to take the American dream to its fullest. So these two men in real life were devastated by the 60s. And the book takes these two men, frustrated, depressed, to Las Vegas. And someone said a while back that a junkie uses his body to tell society there's something wrong. And I think Duke and Dr. Gonzo do that. Though also in that drug fuel state that these characters are in, they drift and they start to behave like criminals. And that's that scene, I think, and Terry was very much interested in shooting that scene, the North Star Cafe scene with Ellen Barkin.
Go on, pay your check and get the hell out.
Where Duke and Dr. Gonzo are sitting there, and there they behave like very close to criminals. That's the peak of their frustrations. Well, first of all, you know, I hadn't seen the film, and I remember getting a phone call that was very exciting that the movie had been selected for competition. And usually when a movie gets selected for competition, at the Cannes Film Festival, it's a hell of a compliment. Then I saw the film the night it premiered, but I felt the audience responded in a very positive way. And then we left the theater on a high. In those days, the reviews would come out like around 4 o'clock in the morning. So everybody stayed up, and the first review came out, and it was just the biggest letdown. It was just, the movie was panned. The French critics were positive, I heard, but I couldn't read French. So I remember reading a couple of reviews, and they were devastating. And, you know, all the effort that everyone put in the film was like, wow, we just died on the shore. So it was like going to Cannes was like going to Vegas, where you win a lot of money the first night and then you lose everything the next day. And that's how it felt. You know, we left with our tails between our legs. We were feeling pretty good the night before the reviews came out, and it suddenly it lost kind of that air, and everybody was kind of like looking around like, oh my God. So it was pretty devastating. Then we went to New York and we showed the movie, and Hunter was there. We felt good, though. There was one thing that we felt good. Everyone involved in the film felt good, and it was that Hunter liked the movie. Hunter liked the movie. And I remember his comment to me after the premiere in New York. He walked up to me and he said, "Congratulations, this is the end of your career." And that was a way of Hunter saying, you know, I enjoyed it, you know. So that was the only positive thing that we had, and actually, it was our aim was we had to make sure that Hunter liked the film. I think that's how I felt, at least. And I'm sure Johnny, everyone wanted to make sure that Hunter was like pleased with what we did. And then the movie came out, and it was a disaster. So, and somehow I'm here talking about the film 20 years later, and somehow it's managed to find an audience, and that's a sour but sweet ending.
There he goes. One of God's own prototypes. A high-powered mutant of some kind never even considered for mass production. Too weird to live, and too rare to die.
But what made everyone feel that commitment, bottom line, is the book and is the work of Hunter S. Thompson. And I had the pleasure to not only meet him for the film and becoming friends with him, but I knew him until the day he died. And I talked to him many times after I remained friends with him all the way to the end of his life. And that was one hell of a friendship, and I still miss him. I miss him, and I just wonder what he would be saying today about the state of our government. I can hear sketches, but he had one hell of a mind, and it was a force of nature. That I'm one of the highlights of my career, getting to know Hunter S. Thompson.